In this video, let's try to create a Bootstrap-like grid system without actually using Bootstrap. So I'm going to use Sass on this, even though we're going to start with CSS. So for that reason, if you want to do the same, you're going to need Node.js installed. So if you don't have it yet, you may want to just go to Node.js website, download and install it, and you should be ready to go. So for me, I just have Visual Studio Code to create this grid system, and it's an empty folder that I have opened here. So I'm going to start here by going into the terminal, and we're going to install Parcel locally. But before that, we're going to initialize a project. So I'm going to do npm init-y, hit enter, and that should create a package.json file here for us. Now let's go ahead and install Parcel. So I'm going to do npm install -D Parcel to install Parcel here. And we're going to need this because it's going to compile Sass to actual CSS. So once Parcel is installed, I'm going to head over to package.json. We're going to get rid of this main entry point that it has by default. And here we're going to just create a script start like so. And right here, we're going to run our command, which is going to be parcel serve. In the current folder, I'm going to do index.html file. So that's all we need for us to actually compile Sass. We should be good to go. So at this point, I'm going to make this index.html file. So I'll go here and do index.html. I'll do exclamation tab to get our main boilerplate. And we're going to link to a CSS file. In this case, our CSS file is going to be a Sass file. So it's going to be SCSS instead of CSS. And I'm just going to rename it to index.scss. So let's go ahead and make that file. So I'm going to make a new file here, call it index.scss. So this is our Sass file. This is our HTML file. We have it all linked together. So let's go to Bootstrap documentation. Again, we're not going to be using Bootstrap, but I will copy this HTML code we got from Bootstrap as our starting point, so I don't have to type all of this, and go back and paste it inside of this body. Like this. So that's our div. Let's get rid of this text center thing. So we have a container div with a row, and in this we have these divs, which are the columns. So let's just start with basic CSS to see how we're going to go about this. So first I'm just going to clear all the defaults here. So I'll go to our CSS and do, for everything, let's do margin 0, padding 0. And this is going to be just our regular reset. And I'm going to do box sizing border box. So that's that. Now here we have this container class. I'm going to make it a little later. So let's start with this row class. So I'm going to go here and do .row. So the way we would do that, we would make it display flex. And that's our flex. That's our row. And then we have that COL class, which is going to be this column. And right now, all we have this same size columns. So for that, we can just do flex1 to make it the same size. Now, finally, I want to be able to see what we're doing. So for that, we'll just create a class here. I'll just call it box. And all I'm going to do for this, I'll just add some background color and some border. So this is not something we're going to use in the end of the day, but during our development, we'll just do this box so we can actually see what's going on. So now I'm going to use this box class on our divs, which are the columns right here. So this, I'm going to do Alt or Option here, space box to add that class to all of this. So now let's see what this looks like. So I'm going to go here because we made this script in the start. We should be able to do npm start, and that should compile that Sass file, which is currently just CSS, but we're going to start using Sass later. And if we open this development link, we have this. So we got this broken down into 3 columns. And this is how it's going to work. If we add another column now here, so if I copy paste this one more time, that should be now 4 columns that are the same size. So that works as you would expect. Now I'm zoomed in a lot. When you're not zoomed in, it's more gonna look like this. But that being said, I'm gonna zoom in anyways. This is good. This is where I'm gonna start using that container. So usually you may want to have some sort of limit how far this is gonna go here. And for that reason, you need a container. If somebody has like a huge monitor, like a really widescreen something, you probably want to have some sort of limit how far this is gonna go. I'm just gonna create that class really quickly. I'll put it on top here. So we'll do that container class. And for this, all we're gonna do is just set a max width so that it doesn't go over the size. I'm not sure what that size is gonna be. I'll just do like 1400 pixels. It doesn't matter. You can play around with this. And when I do this now, it's gonna limit that size. Now my screen is probably less than that. If I zoom out, you'll see this is the end at this point. And you would want to probably center this container. So for that reason, we'll go here and do margin left auto and margin right auto. So that should take care of this container thing, which should now limit how far this is gonna go. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit so you can see what's going on here from now on. But that takes care of this pretty much. So we're done with this container. Now we got this regular column that breaks it down into equally sized columns. Usually when you use Bootstrap, sometimes you may want to go here and say like col-6, right? And that should take like half of the screen right now. So obviously we don't have that class. So if I save this, nothing is going to happen of that kind. So we need to now create this col-6 class. So I'm going to go here and create that class. And for this, we're basically just going to do width 50%. So if I save this and we go and take a look at what happens, you'll see that now this takes half of the screen. And these other columns basically just take however much space is left. Now, one other problem we're going to have if we run out of space, right now we just do as much space as possible for these columns. But what if we do, for example, another 6 here? Now, these 2 6s now will take over the entire space of 12. Then these are kind of now over that size, right? So if we save this, now we're gonna have this problem that it cannot do this because we set to fit the whole thing here. So what I'm gonna do for this reason, I'm gonna do, for this row, I'm gonna do wrap. So we'll do flex wrap to be wrap. And that basically just means when it runs out of space, it needs to go to the next line down. So now it goes to the next line down for these 2, and these 2 are those other 2 columns. So they will just take the rest of the space and divide it by 2 in the next line. So that was just size 6, but we need to make this for like size 12, size 5, size 4. Like for example, size 12, this would be 100%. And if I had like size 4, this would be 33.33%, something like that, right? This is what we need to do, but I don't want to create all of this one by one. So this is where I'm going to use Sass to do this instead of doing all of that. So what I'll do here, I'll just basically do a loop in Sass. And the way that's going to look like, it's going to be basically for, and we'll create some sort of variable. We'll call it col for column or I don't know, maybe size is better, size. So we'll go from, I need from 1 to 12. So 1 to 12. Actually, this is through 12, not 2. And we need this. That's going to be the loop in which we're going to create these classes for these different sizes. So I'll just put it right here. So that's that. And this is going to start with 1, end with 12 for us. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use this variable right here instead of the 6. So we'll do this syntax here, and we'll pass that size in here. So now it should create 12 of these for me if I save this and take a look. As a matter of fact, let's just open this dist folder and open the CSS file so we can see what the end result looks like after this. So there it is. It made all of this from 1 through 12, and they're all size 50 right now. And that's the next thing we're going to do here. So instead of this 50%, let's just grab whatever number we have, that size, and let's just divide it by 12. So if it's 12 divided by 12, it will be 1. If it's, let's just do calc here actually. If it's 6 divided by 12, it's going to be half. So let me just show you what this is going to look like. I'm going to save this. Let's go back and take a look. See, it made all of these things like this, but it doesn't do percentages. It does like px for pixels. So that's not what I want. I want these to be percentages. So let's just go here and multiply this by 100% and see what happens. So I'm going to save this, go back, and see now we got percentages here, like 25%, 33%, this percent. So we basically made all those here very quickly. I'm thinking I may want to put this multiplication maybe inside here instead of putting it outside. So it's still inside of this calculation. And again, hopefully now we got our, see, percentages. Very nice. So we got from here all the way through here. We made all of those different sizes. Now I want these columns to only work when they're inside of the row rather than just being this column class by itself. So for that reason, let's just take all of this, cut this out, and indent it here. Actually, that's not the right spot. This is the column. This is going to go right here inside of the row, like so. So that's going to be now a subclass in the row. And then this thing is also going to be a subclass here for our regular column. And now the difference now, it should be like column that's inside of the row, or there's different column sizes that are inside of a row. So if I go back here, you'll see that's exactly what happened here. So with this setup, now we should be able to go back and see this works. But now I should have all the sizes necessary. So for example, if I wanted to now go here and create like 4 by 8 here, save this. If I go back and take a look, see we got 4 by 8, and we got these two that are exactly the same size. Or if you want this one to be size 9 or something here, you could do that, and this is going to take the rest of the space for this one. So now we just made all those different sizes for us, and it works just fine. And this is for all screen sizes right now. That's what we're dealing with. So we'll think about this as starting on mobile devices on a phone, and then after that, every other screen size is going to be the same unless we define something for a larger screen size. And that's what we're going to do. So this is so far this. See, like in Sass, how nice and clean this ends up being compared to like that same thing in CSS with all of this stuff in it. And as we keep adding more, this is going to be a lot better. So now let's create that next screen size. I'm just going to call it like a tablet or something. We'll just create a media query here. And we'll do a min width. And I don't know what a good size for this will be, but it doesn't really matter. I'll just go and grab some size from Bootstrap in a second. For now, I'll just put this in here. So let's just go take a look in Bootstrap documentation. What are their grid system sizes? If we just scroll down a little bit, see they got all of these. I'm not going to do all of them. I'm just going to do 3 sizes total. So we'll do anything that's smaller, like for them is extra small. Anything that's extra small, it's a mobile device. For us, we'll start from this medium. So that's C768 or greater size. So that means here we're going to say 768. And that's going to be we're going to call this tablets. And that's the other thing I like about Sass is that this type of comment is actually valid here, unlike regular CSS. That's great. So now we got the screen size for what we're going to call tablets. And the way Bootstrap does that, for example, see they have like this MD inside of the class name. Like, let's find an example like this. See, it has these col-lg-2. This is the way it goes about it. So basically everything has this extra like LG or some other thing added to it, which is fine. But instead, I'm just going to name mine like tablet and desktop here. So we'll say col-tablet dash like whatever it is. So to do this, I'm going to just grab this thing, this row class for now, copy that. Let's go over here and paste it within this media query like this. And we're not going to do anything with these two. We're going to keep them the same. It's still going to be flags. It's still going to be that. And here, what I'll do, I'll just change this. Instead of being like col, this is going to be col-tablet like this. And the same sort of thing we would do here. So we'll do col-tablet and then dash and then whatever the size is from 1 to 12. And this loop should pretty much be the same at this point. So we should now have this for tablet devices. So let's just save this and see what this looks like. So if I save this and we go back and take a look at our actual output, see we got all of this, which are the rows, which have all the regular sizes. And then here we have this media query that has all of the same things, but now we have this col-tablet, col-tablet 1, and so on. So we got all of these for us to work with if we want to do something different on a tablet device. And then similarly, we're going to want to do this for desktop devices as well. So that will be basically the same thing now, only with a different media query size over here, right? Here, instead of tablet, we would have some other name like a desktop or something like that. So we could technically just copy this and paste it below and do that. But since it's largely going to be the same code, we might want to create a mixin with this and then reuse that mixin in multiple different spots. So let me show you what I mean. So I'm going to go above here and I'm going to create a mixin and we're going to call this grid or grid system. Let's actually do with a dash. And right here, we're going to basically grab all of this code and put that inside of this mixin. And then inside here, we're going to just include that mixin that we create, which is called grid system. So the whole point of this is that now I want to pass a parameter here to this mixin like this. So I'm going to call it device right here. And then inside of here, I'm going to copy here. Instead of this tablet that we got here, I'm just going to do that string notation again and paste that device variable. And then the same thing here, instead of the tablet here, we'll do this thing and do device right there. And what that means is that now I could just, let's just move this up. I could just go here and do grid system and pass tablet like this and save. And this should produce the same results in my CSS file. If we go take a look, see, we got all of these tablets, all of these different sizes now produced here within this media query, which now also means I can now do pretty much the same thing, only for desktops. And here we're just going to pass desktop, that text. This could also be SM, MD, or LG, right? Any one of those things. Let's go grab the right size for this. So where is it? There it is. For this, I'm going to use this large size, 1200, I guess. You could make all of these. I'm just going to stick with those two. So for 1200 size, I'm just going to change this 1200. And now we got this, which will be our desktop classes. So now if I go back, I should be able to see that I've generated all of those. So that's the tablet one, and this is the desktop one with all those different sizes available. So with this now, hopefully, if we did this correctly, what should happen if I go here right now, let's just do on a mobile device, which is the regular COL. We're going to do 6 and 6. And this, let's actually get rid of it for now. So now we have a row that has 2 of these, which should be equal size if we go and take a look. And that's that. So this is going to be like this on a mobile device, desktop, or anything else right now. However, we can now redefine what we want to happen. Let's say if we're on a desktop. So we can say, if it's a desktop, then let's make it 8 here and 4 on this one. So let's go see how this works. If it works, see, we got this. It divides them like the desktop should, because that media query now takes over. But if we make the screen size smaller, see, at some point when we pass that breakpoint, which seems to be pretty close to the edge of this. So let me just zoom out a little bit so that hopefully I get to it a little sooner. So there we go. So this is that. Now, if we keep scrolling lower, at some point, we're going to get to that size. See, it breaks to that mobile device size over here. So now we can also do tablet too. So maybe on a tablet, we want a whole different setup instead. So as a matter of fact, let's just do 12 and 12 on a mobile device. Then on a tablet, let's do 6 and 6, which will be basically half and half. And on a desktop, we'll do 8 and 4. So if I save this, we go back. Again, if I go to desktop, see, we got 8 and 4. Then we scroll lower until at some point we get to tablet, which is half and half. And if we keep scrolling smaller until we get to mobile device, now we just stack them on top of each other because we do 12 and 12. So we just made our grid system and we used Sass to just generate all of that really quickly so we don't have to type all of it. We might be able to somehow move this one inside of our mixin, not this one, but this one inside of our mixin too, possibly. And the challenge with this is that for this one, there is no like dash right here. It should be basically no dash over here, like if there is no device for a mobile device, and for like, where's the other one? Here, we wouldn't have like a dash device, we would just have this size. So let's try to make that happen. So to handle this whole situation, let's just create a function to actually create this names. So I'm going to go on top here and create a function. And I'm going to call this grid class name. And in this function, we're going to pass the device. And that's it, I guess. We're just going to pass the device here. And based on that, we need to generate this string, which basically should look like this. In case of the column, it should either be nothing or it should be dash and then the device it's going to be. So right now I'm just thinking about this one, right? So the way I can do that, I can say if that device equals, and maybe we'll set it like to a mobile device or all or something like that. Let's just do all. So we'll say if it equals all, then in that case, we're going to basically return just going to be an empty string. And I'll show you why. So that's what we're going to return if the device is all. In all the other cases, if it's like tablet or it's desktop or something like that, let's actually do the semicolon. So in all the other cases, we need to basically do dash and then whatever that device is. So what we're going to do, we're going to return dash plus whatever this device is that we pass to it. Like so. And for this, I'm going to call this grid. Actually, let's rename this grid class name like this. And we'll call this generic. And what this means is that now I'm just going to go here and pass that function with a device right in here. And I'm also going to remove this here. Let's actually do the semicolon here, not forget that. So here, we're going to pass this results of the function. So sometimes it's going to be an empty text. Sometimes it's going to be dash and the device that we're passing through it. So hopefully if I save this, our code still operates and it creates those sizes for our tablet device. See, it did. Right now, this is the only one that works, this top level. And we should have another desktop here that also, where's the desktop? That also works the same way. And it does. So now let's handle this part because this is still hard-coded. And for that, I'm going to basically do the same sort of thing. I'm going to make another function. Instead of generic, we'll just do grid class name. And the way that is going to work, it's basically this. So it's going to be dash and then device and then whatever the size is going to be, which basically tells me that this function also needs to accept a size. So let's actually do that. So size, we're going to accept that. So again, if it's all, then the way that's going to work, it's just not going to have this device in the middle. It's just going to be dash and then size. So like this. What that means for us is just going to copy this, paste it here. And here, instead of device, we're going to do size. So that's what we'll do. And over here, we're going to do device, dash device, and then dash. And then we're going to do the size here. So now I should be able to use this class or function, not class, over here. So I'm going to get rid of this, do that pound key and this, and we're going to use that function. And in this function, we're going to pass the device and we're going to pass the size. So if I didn't mess anything up, this should still generate those sizes accurately for our desktop and for our tablet devices. Seems like it does, so looks good. So now, because of this, I should be able to also use the same mixin let me zoom out a little bit, for this top one here too. Except that this top one has this row stuff and all of this. So for that reason, what I'll do, I'll make our mixin to not have this row in it. So we'll go to this here in this grid system, in this mixin, and we'll just get rid of this row thing out of here. And we'll just do this part. And what that means is that over here, we're going to have to do that row. There's definitely probably more elegant way of doing this, but this should be good for this. Again, row here, and we'll pass this here, which will be all those columns within that row. Okay, so now with this setup, we should be able to also use that over here. So instead of doing all of this, we should be able to use that same mixin. Now let me actually move this from here below. So I'm going to cut all of that, keep all of this stuff on top here, scroll down until we get to this part, and right here before these two, we'll paste this. And over here, we'll just do include that grid system. Except that instead of tablet, we'll just do all. And in case of all, we said don't do the dash. So let's see if this works. So I'm going to save, go back. So if this works, see this is actually accurate. That creates the right class name. It did create all of these. It did create this row COL class. Looks like we're in a good shape. So now we have all of this stuff that's generating that in a single place. Finally, we can now probably move some of this stuff to a separate file so we don't have this mess we got here. So I'm going to create another file here on this top level. I'm just going to call this underscore functions, and it's a Sass file. And here, I'm just going to grab those functions I've made, cut them out of here, and paste it here in this functions file. And then we can just import those here. And then the same way, let's create another file for mixins and make this mixin go to that file. So underscore mixins. And we'll grab that mixin, cut that from here, and put it in this mixins file. And then to use that, we need to import that now. That mixins file. So now we should have this pretty clean file here that just does this, the grid systems that are coming here, and here the rest. We have functions here, we have some mixins here. So then if we wanted this to be a little easier to maintain, maybe it's best to move this particular mixin to its own file that's called grid system mixin or something like that. As a matter of fact, we might want to create a folder for all of those. So I'm going to create a folder, call it mixins. And then I'm going to move the actual mixins file here. And then within that same folder, I'm going to create a file, call it grid. Should start with an underscore. And because we only have this, basically the whole code is going to go here, but assuming then later on you're going to do other things, other mixins, we probably don't want to have all of those here. So now I got this grid, or we can call it grid system or whatever you want to call this. So this is this file. So now I'm going to import that here. And it's called grid, so I'll do that. So now we're importing this here, and then later we're going to import this to here. Only this time, this mixins is now located inside of this mixins folder. So I'm going to do mixins. That should be in quotations like this. So hopefully with all of this, it still functions like it should. And we got our grid system. And there we go. So for desktops, for mobile devices, for anything else you want, we have our responsive grid system with Sass. And if you want the CSS version that has everything you need to work in a browser, that's going to be in our dist folder here. And that's our CSS file that creates all of those different classes that you can now use in your browser. And that should do it for this video. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.